The Perseus gunship is one of the most fun multi-crew ships I've flown for a while. The large ballistic cannons are incredibly satisfying, and they're carried in a rather satisfying shell too. But of course, there are some downsides to the Perseus. So, ready for battle as we explore the answer to the question, how does the Perseus perform in-game? I'm Forrester, and this video will review the currently flyable RSI Perseus, which is described on the Star Citizen website as a heavy gunship. For those familiar with ship reviews on this channel, the structure for this video will be similar. It's split into 5 sections, starting with a ship tour, assessing combat performance, reviewing handling and visibility, looking at the operating costs and profitability before finally summarizing. As always, I've included timestamps in the video description in case you want to skip ahead, especially notable for this one due to the length of the ship tour. And if you're one of the many people watching who isn't yet subscribed to the channel, you might like to press that, not least so you can keep up to date when new ship reviews like this drop. And this review of the Perseus from Roberts Space Industries is based on performance in Star Citizen Alpha 4.4. And we start the tour for the Perseus by approaching from the rear port side. The ship is a fair size, entering into the large size category. We walk past the huge, great big weapons on that manned turret. And we get to a selection of controls, one for the elevator. This is for crew use. And immediately behind it, for the cargo bay, which deploys down a little bit like you might expect from a Constellation or similar. As you'll see from the cargo bay, it is large enough to accommodate some ground vehicles and has little ramps on either side to allow them to come up. This cargo bay incorporates a cargo grid of 96 SCU or 332 SCU crates. At the front of this lower deck on either side is a torpedo loading room, purely cosmetic at this point. And then in a mirrored loadout port and starboard is a docking collar. This has an airlocked section to allow you to close one door before opening the other, and a deploying airlock which connects to the various stations in-game. There's also a physical lever for opening and closing the cargo lift. There are a couple of ladders which give access to the upper deck. Should probably say the middle deck in the context of the Perseus. And then moving towards the front of the ship on the lower deck, we see a fuse relay station and the ladder access. The ladder will take you to the mid deck or the upper deck, as well as an elevator, which will take you to the mid deck or the upper deck as well. Embedded into the walls is component access, hidden behind some little buttons. And then right at the front of this lower deck, or I should say the back, is the rear turret access. We'll move up the ladder in the cargo bay to the upper section of the cargo bay on the middle deck of the Perseus. There's a walkway all around, as well as controls up here for deploying or retracting the cargo bay, and a small button which allows you to see the basketball court. There's some component access hidden behind another panel, as well as another relay station. And this is mirrored on the opposite side. Towards the front of the Perseus on the mid-deck, There are some escape pods, they don't currently function in game, as well as torpedo control station, which can be used to fire the torpedoes. There's a remote turret that does that. Plays a nice cool animation as you power it on. And then on the opposite side is an engineering terminal, coming soon. There is some more components hidden behind panels in the wall, and a relay station. And then the forward turret. Moving towards the rear on this mid-deck, we see some more escape pods. That ladder and main elevator which takes you to the lower or upper decks. And then a set of 3 different rooms. The first of which is the mess hall. There's a nice RSI logo at the far end, and some cupboardy storage for knickknacks. There's a kitchen area, seating, and even a pool table. On the opposite side is the crew quarters. There are 6 bunks here for the crew. Some simple seating, and a toilet. In this section, there is also an armory with some weapons racks and suit lockers. And then at the rear of this main deck is engineering. Here there's an engineer's terminal, as well as various component access, with these components directly exposed. And now we'll head up to the top deck. Access is either via this main elevator or the ladder that runs right next to it. In this top deck there are some more escape pods, and at the rear is the captain's quarters. Plenty of shelving, a little armoured window to the outside, a suit locker for the captain, and a personal toilet. There's a bunk as well as storage locker. And off to the side is a weapons rack. Moving further forward, there's a door, which is an airlocked door, which can lead to the outside of the Perseus. Here there's a walkway, which when planetside could be used to survey the environment before heading out on foot. Can also give access to the top of the ship if required. And right at the front of the Perseus is the bridge. There's a weapons locker. A relay station. And 3 chairs. The central for the pilot, the left-hand side for the gunner, and the right-hand side for the co-pilot. Sitting in the pilot's chair brings it all the way forward. There are 2 remote turrets aboard armed with 2 size 3 weapons each, defaulting to GT-220 Mantis ballistic Gatling guns. One of these is slave to pilot control when the co-pilot seat is unoccupied, and the other is controlled from the bridge. But the main armament for the Perseus is comprised of the 2 manned turrets, one dorsal fore and one ventral rear, with 2 gargantuan size 8 ballistic cannons each, and a pair of Mantis repeaters too for good measure. The gunner can switch between those weapon types, or alternatively fire them both together. The Perseus is further armed with a suite of 20 size 5 torpedoes on a bespoke mount, which are controlled either from a torpedo station or from the bridge. And finally for armament are a set of 6 automated point defense cannons to defend against smaller incoming fighters or missiles. Defensively, the Perseus carries 2 size 3 shield generators, which provide fair protection for the ship, but it's by no means invincible. When things do go wrong, the 38-minute claim timer, expedited to 10 minutes, is still a fair wait time. The manned turrets are sighted such that with good positioning of the Perseus they can both fire at the same target, and they hit wonderfully hard, especially against mid to large sized ships. Being able to swap between weapon types allows gunners in those turrets to effectively engage different types of target, and the torpedoes are right-sized to represent a real threat against the type of ship that the Perseus should be going after. And where the gunship excels is targeting medium to large ships. That's not to say it can't engage fighters or can't engage capitals, it can, but the deck is stacked in favour of hunting those medium to large targets. In terms of visibility, the view from the bridge up top is actually rather good, with clean sightlines all around, above and to the front. It's an RSI ship, so you do get a couple of cockpit struts, but they don't obstruct much. The turrets also have good coverage. The top turret is better and can give a good 360 as well as reaching up high. The bottom turret has some minor obstruction due to the engines, but is also generally good. In terms of handling, the Perseus is middle of the road. The SCM limiter sits at 150 meters per second, at which speeds the Perseus drifts through turns. It's not the worst ship to fly, but it does feel heavy, especially through the turns. Incidentally, once the landing gear is retracted, some little wings pop out, mostly decorative it seems, but a nice little feature nonetheless. At nav speeds, the Perseus will travel up to 1050 meters per second, which is fast enough to give chase to many a large ship if the situation demands it. The Perseus also carries plenty of quantum fuel to give it a substantial range, and actually has a quantum drive capable of achieving a reasonable speed too. Good work, RSI. Ordinary use for the Perseus leads to modest refuel, repair and rearm costs, usually in the tens of thousands of Alpha UEC. The torpedoes, as with other missiles, become prohibitively expensive, leading to potential bills in the hundreds of thousands of Alpha UEC. The mainstay for the Perseus is ship combat contracts, and it does well at anything targeting larger ships. Even sharing a payout amongst the crew, the Perseus can turn a profit whilst giving everybody a good time of blasting some ships out of the sky. There is also a 96 SCU cargo grid, which allows for looting of crates to sell, or even potentially hauling or trading, although there are much better choices for doing that. The grid can carry up to 3 32 SCU crates, meaning the Perseus can loot the largest of boxes. There's a lot of unused space above the grid in the middle, making it possible to overstack the Perseus and potentially complete medium haul contracts too, although, as before, there are better choices of ship for doing that. But that cargo bay could alternatively be used for vehicles, including a medical Ursa, which could open up more ground combat options, or even a rock if you're into mining next to a gunship. In terms of upgrades, I might be tempted to swap the shield generators out for parapets. Although they're not military grade, they offer more protection at the cost of a higher power requirement, and given the all-ballistic loadout of the Perseus, that power is not a problem. It was said in the intro, but the Perseus has been one of the most fun ships I've been on in a while, no matter which position aboard. the ship is unashamedly multi-crew and is just the right size for a small group, both physically and for crew requirement. For a crew of 3 to 5 or 6, it's just great. The official crew count is up to 7, which with engineering probably feels about right. Whilst there are 3 decks, they're not overly complicated, so it's fairly navigable for a crew too. The Perseus looks fantastic inside and out, with personal touches like the basketball hoop or the plants in the mess. Outside, the RSI aggressive Dorito shape is accented by little panels and antennae that pop out, reminiscent of the Bengal carrier, and the main turrets look beefy and armoured, like something you might find on a World War II warship. And, much like other ships released this year, the sound design is absolutely fantastic, whether that's listening to the cannons fire or the ship in Afterburner. The Perseus is sort of versatile, not to the extent of a capital ship, but with 96 SEO grid storage and a good usable space for vehicles or extra off-grid stuff. Whilst there isn't a medical bay, for example, the cargo bay is large enough to put something in that does offer that facility. And the Perseus, although brutal, actually feels fairly well balanced in a PvE environment at the moment too. It's not an instant win ship, but with the right crew doing the right things can do a lot, including punching up and punching down. One downside is that it's often given a docking port instead of a hangar, which can sometimes be a little annoying. And the other downside is the price. The Perseus is an expensive ship at $700 to $800. Whilst compared to some other options there's a lot of bang for that buck, it's still a huge price to pay for a virtual spaceship, not least one that's locked in to the multi-crew space. As a newly released ship, there's no in-game price at time of recording. For some players where money is no object and grouping up is not an issue, the Perseus could be a fantastic ship. As I say, it's the most fun I've had with a ship for a while, but that price might just be too high for others. As a side note, at time of recording, Star Citizen patch Alpha 4.5 is starting to go through testing, with potentially some significant changes to many ships, including the Perseus, with the potential for armour and engineering and repair requirements. As those changes aren't locked down yet, much could change, but it's worth pointing out that I may need to revisit this review, as with many others, when those changes land. But what do you think of the Perseus? Hard hitter or missing the mark? I look forward to reading your thoughts in the video comments. If you enjoyed this video, you might press the like button to help me understand what videos to make more of in future, and if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, you might like to do that too, so that YouTube knows to show you more videos like this in future. But otherwise, and as always, thank you for watching.